Well, welcome to all councillors for our final triennium meeting, and welcome to staff joining us today. Today is a momentous occasion, and in front of you is not implements to be thrown across the table. They are little rewards. So I welcome you all here to our final meeting. We've got a lot to get through today, so I intend to try and expedite the meeting, and we will be trying to confine our discussion to Section B items, and I'll be quite firm on Section A items. So with that, I intend to open this final meeting of the 22nd of September for this council. I would like all members and staff to stand in honour of memory of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Stu, for the timing. So we have apologies from Councillor Hugh Verkay. He very reluctantly passes his apologies, so he won't be joining us today. And thank you, Kath. Councillor Hodge will be leaving us if we don't get it through our business by midday, and I don't think that will be the case. So we will record your apologies for early departure, Katarina. So I'll have a mover that those apologies be accepted. Pamela, seconded by Councillor Mahuta. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. So we'll confirm the agenda as circulated, but I want to make it absolutely clear that we may invoke that sit longer than 2 hours continuously and continue longer than 6 hours if we are not getting through that business quite quickly. So just have that hanging there and be aware of that. So thank you, councillors. Are there any disclosures of interest? Yeah, happy to move from Councillor Strange and Councillor Nichol will second. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. Disclosures of interest. Any disclosures of interest related particularly to the items on the agenda? There being none, we will move on to the confirmation of the council minutes of the 25th of August. I would like to note a correction on page 11 to more accurately reflect the conversation and the action required by council. We've gone back and checked the video recording. It doesn't make a lot of sense what has been distributed, so it's just fine-tuning that and I think it's up on the screen there. It's just the get the wording right. Want to comment there? Happy it right. Thank you. Councillor Husband. Seconded Councillor White. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against. One speaker, Councillor Strange.
Thank you. I Noted in the public excluded minutes, which are also here,
Yes.
that I'm present. I actually wasn't. So has that been recognised? Or? Cool. Thank you, Dave.
That's been noted. Thanks, Councillor Strange. So I'll put that again, put all those for receipt. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. So we've now confirmed the minutes and we're moving on to the committees reporting to Council. And the first one is Environment Performance Committee. Kathy.
Yep, I'm happy to move what's in there. We had some really good reports on citizen science, really good report on the PCE report, knowing what's out there, regulating the environmental fate of chemicals and what it means for council. We also had a number of, we had our normal updates on the territorial authorities, Three Waters compliance, etc. And we also had an update on groundwater nitrates, hotspots, legacy and lags, etc. Just wanted to just say a couple of things, and that was just in relation to the PCE report, knowing what's out there. Just that it was pointed out to us that this Parliamentary Commission of the Environment has identified a number of weaknesses in the framework for the regulatory environment, and that there's a poor record of assessing the environmental fate of chemicals in our environment, that we've got approximately 30,000 of them, only 3,500 of them are approved, and even fewer are fully assessed. So anyway, just identifying some of the gaps there and some of the work that we might need to do in the future, and there were some recommendations there around that which came from our staff. And also just wanted to highlight that there is a recommendation there to do with groundwater nitrates, which was something that was brought to the table by Councillor Tegg, and I just wanted to suggest that if he wanted to comment on that particular one, that would be useful. Right. Thank you.
Councillor Litchwick, would you like to second that before I open it for discussion? So, second, Councillor Litchwick. Councillor Remington.
Barry, I'd just like to, through you, thank and congratulate Councillor White for the excellent manner and professional ways he's handled the Environment Performance Committee. It's your last meeting today. I know there'll be perhaps another occasion where you will be more formally thanked, but I'd like to place on record the outstanding service that you have provided to this council.
Thank you, Councillor Remington. No other discussion on the matter. I put that to the vote. All those in favour of receipt of those minutes and also the section B recommendations, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. Finance and Services Committee. I will initially speak to that and invite my Deputy Chair to comment as appropriate, particularly on section B. There was some minutes that were dealt with by Council on the 25th of August, so we won't deal any more with that. There is essentially the key thing is the carryovers. In my view, they are in line with what Council has had reported over a period of time. It's a reflection of what we've been hearing, and there's that item that covers all those items. Councillor McPherson, would you like to make any comment at all? Oh, right. So you will second that. I'll invite the CEO to make one comment.
Yeah, just point out there's actually an item later on the agenda which is to do with the surplus.
That's correct. Yep. Yeah, we're covering a surplus later on the agenda. So I put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. So we go to the Contracts Committee meeting on page 34, item 6.3. Those section A items, so I will actually move those. Councillor McPherson, you'd like to second? Councillor McPherson, second. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. Strategy and Policy Committee, page 37, 6.4, Councillor Story.
So these are the minutes for the Strategy and Policy Committee of the 6th of September. I move that the minutes are a true and correct record with the Section A items for noting. Also, I would like to cover off that it wasn't covered in, or recorded in the minutes, but at the close of the meeting, we did do an overview of the extensive work that has gone through the Strategy and Policy Committee throughout this triennium. There have been 18 meetings of the Strategy and Policy Committee, 13 meetings of the Submissions Subcommittee, and 51 workshops through that committee. It has covered off an extensive workload, including 122 submission processes, 65 to central government alone. It has also covered a significant number of specific projects, including the Sustainable Infrastructure Decision-Making Framework, the Draft Regional Coastal Plan, the Regional Pest Management Plan, Regional Biodiversity Management Strategy, a Draft Water Security Strategy, Navigation Safety Bylaw Review, amongst a number of other things, including a Draft Aquaculture Strategy. So just wanted to note for the record the significant work that came through the Strategy and Policy Committee, and acknowledge all of the commitment of council members of that committee, their attention to the work at hand, and their willingness to productively engage in the process. Just wanted to acknowledge that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Story. Yes, I'd like to reiterate the huge workload and how there's been a significant commitment. I don't think it's always understood by the public that when the government is going through significant change, the number of and the amount of work that this council has done to feed back into what we think should be done in those spheres where there's change being put forward. And this council has not stood back from putting forward its views very strongly. So I'd just like to say there, thank you, and it's all the members of the council sit on that committee. That is how important this council believes that committee is. So thank you to your chairpersonship for that work.
Thank you.
Councillor Remington.
I'd like to second that with pleasure and pride. Also reiterate your comments, but probably disagree. I don't think the government take one blind bit of notice of your submissions. I personally think they're just a waste of time. And this government is actually taking this country down a path which is going to be very difficult to actually do a U-turn. But hopefully that will come next October. But I think all our submissions have been absolutely a waste of time. Thanks.
But before I put that vote, I'd just like to say that I think the submissions, they certainly make headway amongst a number of officials and ministers. It's not always do we get the responses that we would like to see, and sometimes that's about the pace of change that the government wants to have advanced in its term. So any other comments on that matter? Yes.
I think, could you give me one example where they have listened to us? I mean, you know, we had a plan change. It was just a brilliant piece of work that we did, totally ignored for 3 years, and nothing's been done. Could you give me one example that they have taken note? You've just said they have. I'd like no.
Rather
I'm
than
asking the chair, not you.
Rather than call out one example, I'm aware of a number of influences where we have influenced ministers that have influenced policy. We've not always won all those ones. I don't want to pick out one. There have been a number, Otherwise, would we have put in and continue to put in the effort that we put in? And I think we wouldn't have made that effort if it was just always falling on deaf ears. But so my view is that we have been making some, and would you like to comment, Chair, just before we put this to the vote?
Sure. I just, I suppose I understand the frustration when it feels that we put considerable time and energy into submissions and don't necessarily see the outcomes that we would like. But I take great pride in chairing the committee through the process and the energy and effort we put into it, because the thing is if we don't take every opportunity to put forward a strong voice for the Waikato region in terms of how central government direction is going to impact on our communities and our constituents, if we don't take every opportunity to put that forward, then we give up every opportunity to shape the outcome.
Absolutely, well said. Councillor Teague.
Well, I can think of a couple of instances where our submissions have made a difference. Shovel Ready, where we received millions of dollars of assistance. Kauri Dieback and Wilding Pine Control on the Thames Coromandel. I think we've been very successful.
And there's a number of others as well. Yeah. So, thank you for that, and I'll put that, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. We now move on to Climate Action Committee. Jennifer Nicol, Councillor Nicol.
Thank you. So that was a good last meeting a few weeks ago. Take the section A as read. In section B, there's one there that it's a fairly straightforward one. The committee just wanted to point out and send a strong message around the fact that while the National Adaptation Plan is now out, really as a local government in general needs more tools in the toolkit soon to help our communities adapt to climate change. And so we've asked whether our chair might write to the relevant ministers to request the acceleration of passing the legislation for managed retreat of assets that are at risk. So I think that's just a sentiment there of a message to send, because a lot of the things have been delayed at times. And so the idea is that our council's position is that we would like to assist the district councils and our communities to adapt as soon as they are ready and have the tools to do so. So that would be about it. But other than that, I'd only just say I've really enjoyed chairing this committee, and thank you to everyone involved, and in particular our staff as well, for the expertise in integrating the climate change considerations into everything we do across all departments. And yeah, really, really appreciate the councillors for their guidance in shaping this new area. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, Councillor Litchfield.
And I would also acknowledge Chair Nicol for climate change, that she's done a marvellous job and under a lot of duress when it comes to with the rural sector. And I really appreciate the work that you and your committee and the staff that have supported this council in moving in the right direction. Hopefully the next triennium it'll move a little bit faster when we've got the right mix of people to move that forward. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have a strong foundation that whatever the future council chooses to do, they've got the groundwork set. Yep.
And equally, I think full council will extend congratulations to you, because it was a new area of work. It was a new portfolio that was undertaken a range of activities over the 3 years. So well done to the committee for bringing a number of perspectives to council and to staff in support of that. So thank you. There being no other comment, I will put that's moved by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Teague. All those in favour. Well, did you second that, Councillor? Okay, Councillor Teague. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye.
Right, thank you.
Yes, so that was section A's and B's, carrying both those movements, same mover and seconder. We now move over to Integrated Catchment Committee, and Councillor Husband, Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it was a good committee, good meeting. We thrashed quite a bit of stuff around. I think the emergency response framework is good. Yeah, moving along. We got a good briefing on that. Excellent consent compliance, and yeah, we're continuing to improve that area of our business, which is really good. The harbour catchment planning, you know, some of the constituent councils have been briefed on that. Carry protection, there's lots happening in that space. The EIF granting, you know, the whole way through 9 years that I've been here, staff have done a really good job at allocating that money out and really fairly across, you know, across the region. Just wanted to acknowledge that this is the last committee, the last of the subcommittee meetings. So we had a really good round of subcommittee meetings. They're all really positive about moving forward, and hope that hopefully the new council will see that as well, that they are actually a great benefit to hide behind. Because when you're in the community, it's always been good to be able to say, well, I went to the meeting, mate. You know, like it's been in front of you guys. So whereas we weren't able to do that at the start of the training. So, but we had a really good round of those meetings. Again, just a pleasure to work with our integrated catchment management staff, and I'm just going to give them a bit of kudos. 9 years that I've been here under Claire and now Greg. Just a spectacular group of people. Number one group of staff. And my only hope is, Chris, this is right for you, that this council acknowledges that and pays them what they need to retain them. You know, because we need to keep these guys and girls in their jobs here. So, and not be looking for other jobs over $5 grand or 10 grand. Yeah. So, one more thing, we had a meeting yesterday, which is a bit of a sour end to the triennium. There's Tikahonga has up to 136% rate rises on one of the schemes, which is affects individual landowners by 30 grand. So, and it got sprung on them. You might have heard it on the Mike Hosking show. We sort of had a bit of a miss there. We thought we'd liaised with all the landowners that were getting that rate rise that we talked about in the long-term plan, but we'd missed this group of people, about 9 landowners, and they got their own sort of individual scheme. So they're pretty hot under the collar, but Pamela and I and Sarah, who is spectacular, she took them off the ledge, and we actually got some really good outcomes. But you guys are going to have some, you know, the new council that comes in are going to have some serious conversations about affordability. You know, it's just, you know, it's got to that stage there. The central government. I don't. It's got to that stage where, yeah, 30 grand. You know, it's for a small mum and dad farm. That's all I take home. So there's going to be some really interesting conversations in that space for the new council. So yeah, and that's about it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, happy, and I'll invite Stu Kneebone to second because he's a co-chair, and I'd also like Stu to make just a couple of words from your point of view, because this was a first for, as I understand, this council to have co-chairs in this area, which happened during our triennium. So, Stu, a few comments from you.
Sorry.
Actually, no, the co-chair thing's been in place, yeah, last term as well, and possibly the term before. I've lost track. But no, look, it's worked fine. Yeah, I think it's worked well, really. Yeah. I haven't had to get involved in the issues that he's just described, which sets me down to the ground. Yeah. But no, it was a good meeting to end the triennium on. So well chaired by Stu. So
this is from the chair's point of view. This is a very important part of our work. We've said that before, It's spending up over 40% of our income. So it is a most important part of the work. And thank you to staff, and thank you for acknowledging staff, because the work that goes in there is incredible. Fred.
Yeah, I want to acknowledge Stu Husband as an absolute dedicated, committed chair of Integrated Catchment Management that has really championed farmers, not just in the Waikato, but throughout. And as far as his chairing abilities go, well, he is really totally impartial. You know, invited to the table, happy to participate, even when I was under, sanctions, and he stuck up for democracy, and I really appreciate that. Brilliant chair, and he has the respect of his farming community, and you couldn't get better person representing the regional in that capacity. So really appreciated your efforts there, Stu. Not that I supported everything that went down, but a model for farming in the Waikato. However, there is a lot of work to be done. However, there's always a however, and as you know, these committees these committees, well, you got a big cheese out of it, didn't you? These committees that were disabled or dismantled, and that was through council. I'm not going to blame anyone in particular, but council supported that move, and it was the wrong move, particularly with the drainage groups. The information that they have and the information they hold keeps rates down. Their intellectual experience in that field cannot be underestimated. We need to keep that those committees going.
Thanks.
But however, there is underrepresentation, and that's particularly on the West Coast. There's none. And when you look at other areas, Taupō's got a little bit, but we need to be working. The council needs to work at reinstating the groups that are going to be part, that are going to contribute to our kaupapa.
I'm sure the new incoming council would take recognition of your remarks and look at it. So thank
as the
you,
West
Council.
Coast, as part of the West Coast Council, underrepresented, disappointed.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Litchwick. Councillor Mahuta.
Tuatahi ngā mihi nui kia kōrua I whakapaukaha nei mahi. Just acknowledge the work that he's done over my whole terms of council. A little bit like Fred, just wanted to capture that note that we've learned that committees are the way to, the subcommittees are the structure. So just wondering, going forward, if there was closeout reports from all these committees, it would give the incoming council a headline. Hey, we must reinstate catchment and drainage committees. So I'm inviting you to say that in these minutes so that they're on the record. And the other one I was wanting to understand is mud ridges, because it's going to last forever, that kaupapa. How many times have we reviewed it? What really needs to happen with mud ridges? I know now we're saying let's review the costs and then our central government, but have we done that like every term this, I've been here? So just asking if you can give us two statements on those two things so they're in the minutes so the next council can take them as a guide. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Happy to do that,
Yep.
Stu.
So,
we'll note that and have you move, and Stu Kneebone second.
Oh, yeah. So I'll just have a bit of a korero on that. We received a deputation from the Lower Waikato Catchment Committee at that meeting, which I'm hoping is attached or councillors have some sort of access to. And that would be a great place to take that, for staff to take out a bit of a direction for the new council, both on the barge and the committee structures. So, yeah, I mean, I've said it at all the integrated catchment meetings I've been to and sort of touched on it here, the committee meetings. I actually get quite emotional about it, when we actually took those off them. No one probably knows sitting around this table, but I had those guys at my house till 4 a.m, for weeks and weeks. They were so distraught, that they'd lost those committees. Now, and I didn't even realise what we'd done. You know, like I was part of that. I absolutely was part of that. But I didn't even realise what we'd done, you know, until I saw the level of emotion. So, yep, I hope the new council brings back those committees in full, because what's been missing, and the cockies are still turning up, because that affects them. That affects them. But we're missing iwi, we're missing the power companies, we're missing DOC, missing all of those people. You know, so sure, we've got the cockies, but because we're not a structured committee anymore, the other groups sort of aren't coming. You know, so I think it's really important that the new council picks up on that, reinstates those catchment committees. Yeah, and just touching on what Stu said, I feel exactly the same. Been very lucky over the 9 years to have an awesome chair in the south, and you know, we've worked really well together and have absolutely no complaints on the catchment side of things. We've worked well, you know, and it's been a really good thing.
Thanks,
I'll
Councillor
shut up now.
Husband. Quick comment, Russ, and then
Yeah.
Councillor T.
Thanks very much, Barry. I don't think you need to beat yourself up on it, Stu. What happened was the early years, those catchment committees were delivered what they were designed for. And I remember Stu Nebo and I, meetings we used to go to were focused, and they were farmer focused, and they were great. And they ended up to be bigger than Ben Hur. And really, it wasn't until 2 o'clock in the afternoon did the farmers have the opportunity to put their concerns forward. So those that are returned, be careful that you don't let the agendas get too big until the purpose of the meeting is lost, and that's what happened last time.
Thank you. Councillor T.
Thanks. Look, I have no problem with the idea of sort of committees, but I think their mandate, if you like, has to be broadened beyond simply catchment issues. So, for example, in my electorate, we need to think about climate change, public transport, and the four well-beings, and the broader sense of what the council does. So, if we are to have these committees, my recommendation is that we have them that broaden it out into all of the issues that are arising in our electorate. My second point is around muggerages, and Stu didn't touch on it, but I raised it at this meeting, that if we are going to have a review, we need a proper cost-benefit analysis of that scheme, or any suggestion of how it goes forward. And the previous one was seriously lacking, as we all know. So that's where I would.
Okay. There will be, I acknowledge there'll be a number of opinions as to the shape of what the new council shall do, but I'm very mindful that that will be up to the new council. And so we can all speculate and make comments as to what should happen. There has been, in my mind, a pretty strong, what I'm picking up, a consensus about the subcommittees. Their terms of reference will be up to that new council. So I would just say, let's not go there, because we could be another half hour talking about what should be terms of reference, and it's not our mandate. So I'd like to say I welcome all the comments that are made to date. You can make a very quick comment.
It was just Dennis reminding me actually about it's nothing. I'm not going to shoot Dennis down in any way. Okay, no. It's just about muggerages. He reminded me that I missed that out of my. Right. So I would hope, and I think Tipper and everyone else who's been here 9 years would agree, that we leave this now. You know, like, this is time to put this away. It's finished. You know, like, it didn't work. It's had financial reviews on it, I think 4 times. Yeah. You know, so it's time to just put it to bed. And I think council's done a good job of putting that to bed. And now we're on another direction where we're working in with Hauraki to come up with another solution that will help out for 30 odd years.
Thank you for those words.
Thank you.
I think that's a good way to finish it. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. So we now go to committees reporting to council for receipts. So we have the Waihou-Piako Flood Protection Advisory Subcommittee, 30th of November, and that's 7.1 on page 64, Stu Husband. We have here A's and B's in terms of resolutions. So,
Mr. Chair, these are just a
yeah,
couple of
they're
minutes.
just a process.
Yeah, they're just a process
Yeah.
thing.
So I just want to, I'll take you as mover.
Yep.
And seconder will be, yep, Councillor Story. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, carried. Yeah, so those will be A's and B's.
Noting to be recommended.
Yeah, the B noting, it's a note of the B recommendations rather than an action point. So that's how we'll record it. So we're now down to page 70 on item 7.2, minutes of the Waikato Plan Leadership Committee, Angela Strange.
So, Mr. Chair, did you want me to make any comment on the section B?
On the previous one?
Yes.
I don't really require it, but more, I think it's more for the incoming council to look at. So Waikato Plan, Angela Strange and Jennifer.
Yeah, so Andrew and I and yourself have been going, so we could all, any one of us could comment. My 2 cents would be that's all section A here to just note. Nothing section B in there, but the latest is that with Margaret Wilson and our project manager moving on, there's an interim committee kind of in place to just continue to provide that direction for the new council, then consider, and there's an item later in the agenda on the Waikato Plan about that. So I don't think there's much we need to do. Yeah.
Yes, it's just for noting really.
Yeah. So I'm happy to move.
You'll move, and Councillor Strange will second. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried. Councillor Husband, you like to hit your light?
Absolutely.
Great. Excellent. Now we're moving on to Regional Transport Committee. Now, normally Hugh would present this, but Angela's going to do a good job in covering it off. Councillor Strange.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just bring them up the minutes.
Page 75, and it's item 7.3.
Yeah, thank you. This was the obviously the final Regional Transport Committee of the Triennium, in which Chair Hugh was pretty much honoured for his years of service to this committee in particular. Yeah, it was a fantastic meeting with most of the committee able to meet in the room, and we discussed all the areas of business that you can see in your minutes. Section B is up on the screen.
Do you want CEO
If there's
to
any
comment?
questions on that, either Chris or Mark
I'll
might
invite
want to comment.
CEO to make a comment.
Thank you, councillors. The only comment I'd make is that the money for this is actually, I understand, in the operational budget. Mark's confirming that it's not going to be sought from any other pool.
Thanks for confirming that.
There was just a question where that might be funded from. That's the operational budget. So you happy to move?
Yeah.
And Councillor Litchwick seconds. All those in favour, please say aye. That's A's and B's. Those against, carried. So we now move over to the Hauraki Gulf Forum. Councillor Teague, page 82, item 7.4.
Thanks, Chair. There's a staff report on what went on at the last meeting. I'll take that as read. Just a couple of highlights. The meeting was hosted at Pyro by Agrasea, and just to let you know, there's some amazing stuff going on by that company in terms of seaweed, both on land and in the sea. The couple who own that company are a real powerhouse, and they're doing some marvellous work. We had a report on the nitrogen load coming out of the rivers into the Firth, which just highlighted why we're declaring it a degraded water body. The other thing I'd just bring to your attention, we had a presentation on an invasive seaweed which has been discovered at Aotea Great Barrier and now on Great Barrier called Kaulupa. And there's real concern in the ministry about that. There's really no effective way of trying to cut it back. And it can be spread on anchors and anchor ropes and stuff like that. So, you know, this is a real serious concern for the Hauraki coal. And I think it's another indication of warmer waters bringing this type of invasive plant into our rohi. So, yeah, just watch out for that because it's quite a serious issue.
Thank you, Councillor Teague. I will second that. You'll move. That will be received. All those in favour, please say aye.
Chair, yeah, just clarification. You said Aotea. Is that Aotea? Great Barrier.
Great Barrier.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Teague moves. I second. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. Lake Taupō Protection Project. Kathy or Katarina, either or.
Yes, I was there. I'm happy to move everything that was here that was they were all Section A items. Just wanted to highlight one particular thing. No, actually two particular things. One was that it was interesting to me to actually see that in our monitoring plan that there are actually 22 agreements that, and basically this is the report on the monitoring plan. I always thought that there were 27. In the past, we've been told 27. Anyway, Brent did confirm to me when I asked him later about that number. It has been confirmed 22 nitrogen discharge reduction agreements. Also just wanted to highlight that this was a meeting where we made some final decisions about the independent review, which is happening as well. And yeah, so that was really good to actually finally get some conclusion on that. Thank you.
Right. No comment, but Councillor Hodge, you'll second, and Councillor White move. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. So we now move to Te Arawa River Iwi, Katarina.
I co-chaired this meeting because the chair was absent, and it was a good hui. So all A's are all exactly what it says. Now in the B, I think there was a confusion more about the minute taker, what was discussed on that day, more than the fact of trying to relate to what the corridor was about. I do believe Jess sent that out to myself and the other co-chair, but because the other co-chair is away, Stu Nebo and we did a corridor on it, and we were waiting for reply from the other team.
Yes.
But it's quite basic, really, is trying to understand what they are.
So as I understand it, what is being, it looks a bit confusing, the Section B item, but it's actually a process item, rather than seeking this council to take any action. So it's basically to be noted rather than any other step. So
that's what we agreed upon.
So that's how I understand it is. So just to clear any confusion. So you'll move that, Councillor White, second by Councillor Hodge, that the B's be noted and the A's be received. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. So we move on to the Waikato Civil Defence, and we don't have Hugh here, which is unfortunate as last one, but Stu Husband moves. I was in attendance, so I will second. Yep. Either or you can move, I'll second it, doesn't matter. So I'm happy to do that. I just want to record in the minutes that our parting chair of that committee has done an outstanding job to advance civil defence to a new plane in this region. It's now recognised as a leading group able to make very significant differences in the approach to civil defence in this region, and has been regarded by Wellington as a leader in its field. So, and that's largely due to the chairmanship and his ability to ensure that all those participating councils actually are actively at the table. And what's impressed me is the attendance at the table. He always enjoys at his meetings a full attendance, which I think speaks a lot to his chairmanship of Waihou-Piako. So I just want to place on record an outstanding amount of work in that sphere. And would you like to comment, Stu Husband?
Oh.
Sorry, and then Katarina Hodge.
Okay.
Oh, no, you're right. Just, yeah.
Yeah, it's just to echo what you're saying. From someone who's been in the emergency services for quite some time, full-time paid, we always thought civil defence was somewhat of a joke, and no one can take on the fire service. But I'll tell you what, Waihou-Piako's changed that. It's actually got some real mana and respect now, and it's right down to the chair of that committee, Hugh. So, yeah, kudos to Hugh for that.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Stu. So I will put that now. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. So we now move on to future proof. And we have a B, A's and B's here. And that's page 115, section 7.8. So you want to have Mark? So what I'll do is I'll invite. Do you want to cover off anything on this? So I'll invite the CEO to make a couple of comments to advance this item.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think it was anticipated that Rob Brodnax might be present as who looks after the committee at the moment after Peter Winters moved on. Mark, did you have any comments you needed to make against the minutes?
And section A and B's.
We don't have Robert here at the moment.
Unfortunately, can I pass on Robert's apologies? He wasn't anticipating the agenda to move quite this quickly. But I'm happy to speak briefly to, I think, what's a significant milestone for the project. Just a little reminder, the Metro Spatial Plan transport program has been developed with our future-proof partners and significant input from WRC. I'll keep it really brief, but I think the overall thing is that this represents a degree of alignment and vision for transport and the transport system for the metro area. When we're talking about the metro area, that's effectively Hamilton and its urban surrounds. That represents just over half of the population of the Waikato region. A significant degree of alignment in the program to the extent that I've not seen in my short time with the regional council, and I think puts all partners in good stead in terms of designing and delivering a system in parallel with one another.
So just what you're saying is that the regional council and the district councils are in alignment on all these matters and very closely in alignment, correct?
That's correct.
I'll invite the CEO just to make, I think this is very important. Transport is a key part of what we do. And this is my observation over this triennium. Transport is moved to an entirely new space, both in the policy and also implementation. And that's a thanks to not only staff, but to both you and Councillor Strange in advancing this area of work. So I've seen the dial move very significantly on this side, but I'll now leave the CEO to make comments.
Yeah, look, and the only comment I'd make is that this is significant. It is about the future of transport in the sort of metro and peri-urban area. And I understand the same recommendations, Mark, identical recommendations. They're going to Hamilton City, Waikato District and Waipā District.
That's correct.
So, Councillor White?
Yeah, just a quick question, Mark, just in terms of, so it actually looks quite good to me. I just had a question around the recommended program and the land use intensification side of it. Has there been support from the City Council around the land use intensification part of the program? I'm just conscious of there having been there's been a lot of conversation in the media recently from city councils about the land use intensification part of urban development.
Yes, all councils that are party to Future Proof are in the process of signing off this plan, which has both the land use and transport sides very explicitly spelled out. In fact, it was just, I think, 48 hours after the Future Proof Implementation Committee signed off on the plan that Hamilton City Council did the same.
So I understand Robert Bodmax is online. If he would, I'd invite him to make any comment if you wish, Robert.
Thank you for the opportunity. I can just reassure and follow up on Mark's comment that all of the partner councils have supported the business case and understand the densification requirements that sit underneath it, and it aligns with how they're tackling the MDRS plan changes as well. The future development strategy for Future Proof, which is its next piece of work in the planning space, part of that scope is to go through and see what needs to change in terms of the settlement pattern to implement the business case, and then that would feed into subsequent RPS changes and district plan changes as well. So we're all moving pretty well in lockstep at the moment. This is a really ambitious business case for the metrospatial plan area. It lines up very well with other business cases which focus on mode shift for the other major metropolitan areas, and puts us in a really good stead when we think about future funding applications with NZTA or the Ministry of Transport as the funding environment changes a little bit. So it's a very good piece of work which Future Proof endorses.
A very important part of looking at our future. Councillor Strange would like to comment.
Oh yeah, thank you, Chair Barry. Yeah, I just wanted to endorse what is happening here with the Future Proof and the MSP. Future Proof is one of those few committees throughout New Zealand that has 3 government ministers who sit on it. So when we talk about advocating to central government, this is one of our prime opportunities to do that with them in the room at the same time. So yeah, I think we have the ear of government and we have agreement around the table from local councils as well. So I'd be happy to move this item. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that. Yes, it's a demonstration on how collaboration can work, and it's my view that collaboration actually is a foundation for really getting good results, and this is an example of what can come out of great collaboration. So thank you for that. So I have a mover, Councillor Strange and Councillor Nicol. That's for the A's and the B's. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. All those against? Being none, it's carried. Thank you. Now we move, we're doing well. Thank you, councillors, for your comments and keeping them sharp and to the point. We're now moving on to page 162. So we're cranking through this item 7.9, the Regional Connections Committee. Councillor Strange.
All right, thank you, Chair. Just find the page, sorry.
Pace is catching you out.
Yeah, it is. Thank you. All right, this was our final Regional Connections Committee of the Year. And yeah, it was majority of people in attendance. Yeah, we talked through a number of items, as you can see in the minutes. And the major one that we looked at was the endorsing the regional public transport plan, which committee and staff have moved through at pace this year. Staff made it a really efficient process, and we had lots of public engagement on the matter with hearings just recently as well. So yeah, the Regional Connections Committee has endorsed Regional Public Transport Plan, and yeah, we're really happy with where it's heading. Some changes have been made based on the hearings process. So yeah, is
So
what we're
you're
looking at.
happy to move Councillor Strange, Councillor Remington, Councillor Pegg is next speaker up. Just seconding. Okay, Councillor Remington, next speaker up. Just get our lights. Right, that's it. You're right.
The patronage numbers, where are we currently?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I expect Councillor Remington's referring to the Te Huia patronage.
No, I'm talking about buses.
Overall, bus patronage is improving on most routes, in particular those routes that were performing very well prior. So by that I'm referring to, I guess, the higher frequency, more direct routes that have been implemented in the city. It would be fair to say that overall patronage remains depressed. That reflects a general change in travel patterns post-COVID. But overall patronage is continuing to improve.
Improving, what is the drop? Cut to the chase. What's the drop in pre-COVID to what it is today?
At last review, we were looking at roughly 20% less than pre-COVID, roughly 20%.
And what are you doing to kind of correct that?
I think the main initiative through you, Chair, that is underway at the moment to lift patronage is in terms of prioritising the rollout of new service levels and new services. So it's been on the cards for some time, services such as the Meteor, moving towards implementation of a demand responsive service in Rotorua, and the bus network refresh, which was also referred to in the papers for the Regional Connections Committee, which will make several of those existing routes faster and more efficient, making them more attractive to passengers.
Fair answer. I mean, public transport has dropped worldwide, and I don't know why, and I don't think you know why, but perhaps people are working from home. But, 20% is one hell of a bloody, it's 1/5. That's a big kind of cut. Te Huia, where are we sitting on that, Mark?
Te Huia patronage continues to improve. Importantly, its weekday base is improving. The August patronage reports are available online, but I've just been sent a couple of provisional updates based on September figures, which shows that to the middle of this month, our 6-day average was 247 passengers per day.
Wonderful.
So that's just for comparison, over the entire period of over the August period, we had our daily kind of 6-day average sitting at about 219. So month on month, we're seeing a really steady growth in the base patronage for Te Huia.
That's a very significant
Mr. Chair, I mean,
improvement.
it's less than helpful when you get some of these characters sitting around this table, particularly old Fred over there on the radio saying there's 10 passengers.
Well,
It just does not help. So 200, well done.
Yes.
The truth might hurt, but that's a fact. It's not the lies.
We will now, Councillor Husband. Councillor Husband.
I'll look at you all. Thank you, Chair, and thanks staff and for all the work you've done on this plan. Just a question, and I'll tell you why. Something I've noticed in the hustings, and shut me down if I'm not allowed to talk about this. It's not about electioneering. It's about when people are electioneering, especially on smaller councils, I expressed this to Mark and the CE this morning, and I don't know if it's the appropriate place to bring it up, but it was, people are saying that it's the regional council have robbed us. They've taken it, they've taken the rate, they're going to rate and they're going to rate us for the train and they're doing all this. So it's not me, because I'm not trying to defend myself as a councillor now. I'm at Waihou-Piako. No, they're not mates. But I mean, it's up to you guys. But me personally, after the election, and that's what I said to Mark, once all the silly season's over, I'd actually address that, because what's happening is that's going out to 300 or 400 people in a hall, right? So it's not just staying, and like I might get to 3 or 4 and say, hey, that's not quite right what's being said there. You know, they did do consultation with the councils and blah blah blah. So it might be an idea to
understand. There's a whole issue around misinformation and misleading information. We are moving into an area where that's quite an increasing common approach and put forward as a legitimate approach. So, you know, that's the whole push in that area. So thank you for highlighting that, Councillor Husband.
Fred's stupid comments don't help.
Councillor Strange. Councillor Strange. Oh, Councillor Mahuta first. Sorry.
Kia ora, no, again, mahi to staff, but and to you, Councillor Strange, for your involvement in all of the transport-related portfolios, and I look forward to a new council aligning all of those, so it's not 4 areas of split work. That I'm sure that if we're fortunate that you get back, it's one consolidated work on transport.
It's a very good comment that we've made some, you know, sometimes when you've got split, you think we're not going to keep the ball rolling, but I thank councillors and staff for really making a synergy across all the transport areas. So that's a big step. Councillor Strange.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Barry. If I can just have the last words
you got the
before
last
we move to
say.
motion. Yeah, I just want to say a big thank you to our staff. Initially, when I first started, it was Janine who had the transport portfolio, which was really handy in the beginnings to have that financial eye over the proceedings as well. I learnt a lot from Janine, so yeah, thank you, Janine. And then lately we've had Mark take the reins, and the Directorate has just gone from strength to strength. So yeah, thank you, Chris, for that. Hiring of Mark. And yeah, given that transport is 25% of our budget, and possibly more in the future with the MSP moving forward. Yeah, I just think that it's finally getting that recognition that it needs and the importance within our region as well. So yeah, thank you to all staff involved.
So you'll move that and seconder. Councillor Teague was the seconder. Thank you for all those comments. So I'd just like to reinforce those. I'll now put these are covering section A and B items. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. So we go to risk and assurance, and as I understand it, these are all section A items. I'm happy to move. On page 229, item 710, if you would happy to second, Andrew, I'll take those as read. Yeah, sure. I'll give you time to have a look. I'll just make these comments that I have really seen the value of independent directors which sit on our risk and assurance, an independent chair and an independent member. They have really added to, and I know the staff have really welcomed what has come out of that committee. And so, you know, it's something which is absolutely essential, particularly in these days when we have a number of challenges happening in all sorts of areas. To have that sort of lens over things has reaped a lot of rewards for council, both in the way it approaches things, but also it's been an open door for our Audit New Zealand to have a look at what we're doing and literally sit alongside us. And so what that to me lends itself to when we get to the report for the year of getting unqualified opinions from them. So I think we have a huge level of transparency. We've pushed during the year stronger procurement approach, and I thank you to my deputy. He's been part of that volume in that committee to really push the procurement, and we have really upped our game over the time. There's still work to be done in that space, and that's acknowledged, but essentially it's come a long way. So with that, I have much pleasure in moving. You've got a comment to make?
I'd just like to support what you've said, and very much like to acknowledge the effort of the CFO under fairly intensive scrutiny at times. I think we're blessed having a CFO of the calibre of Janine, and Janine, you've done a great job. I appreciate your professionalism and your attention to detail. The other thing is, sitting around a number of boards, I think we get a really good value audit opinion. It's value for money. And to your point about the two independents, I think they've added a huge amount of value.
Thank you. So I've moved, seconded, there being no, oh yes, Councillor Teague.
Yeah, I have a question, thanks.
Yeah,
I just
sure.
wonder if staff could give an update on legal fees incurred by the council, both in the lead up to the meeting to remove the chair and the subsequent.
Is that have any political relevance? Is it? So I don't want to start a big debate on that. I'm just thinking, is that really going to achieve? Because I understand, my ruling is going to be this. I understand that this information has already been supplied to council. From what I understand, those figures have been supplied. It's been publicly announced. So I'm basically not going to accept a debate on the matter. It's
not a debate, it's a question.
Or the question has already been answered. So the indication has been given. So I don't want to get into debate because the facts are already established. So that's where I'll rule on that matter. So I'm not going to accept any comment or answer to that question. Any other questions on their work?
You might want to get the Leicester levy kind of cost for the previous kind of.
Enough
it's
of
gone
that.
on and on. He's cost us council a lot of money, but these two people on the left,
we have a mover order. We have a mover and a seconder. I'm going to put that to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. Carried. Thank you very much. We're now down to order. We're now down to ordinary business. Point 8.1. And welcome Neville to the table, one of our hard-working staff who's recovered from COVID and is really back in driving a significant part of our organisation. I'd like to congratulate you, Neville, before you open, about the work you have done in a number of areas throughout the year, and your team. Thank you for that. Neville, would you like to introduce this item, Health and Safety Report?
Thank you, Chair Barry, and good afternoon, or good morning, sorry, councillors. I'll take this report as read. You are very familiar with the format now, and you know I think it's a little bit out of date in regard that the report relates to the August month, and that's all around the timing. There's always a bit of a lag on these reports, and the significant change that has occurred since the production of this report is the removal of the traffic light system earlier this month. So that was on the 12th of September at midnight. As you all know, all those constraints have been removed. So the information is interesting in respect to the COVID scenario. The trend in terms of our staff reporting their infection rates has continued to decline I guess, in the same way that it has for our general public. So a little bit of, I guess, scene setting in that regard. The risk profile information that's in section 1 of the report is there just for information and context setting in regard to where WorkSafe is at and what their focus is and the key messages they're giving. It's relevant to our business because obviously a lot of the work that particularly our contractors undertake involves work in that construction area. So quite relevant information from that perspective. The critical risks information is there to just reassure you that we are still focusing, obviously, on those critical and high-profile risks that we understand the organisation is continuously exposed to, and that our processes around reviewing and maintaining understanding and awareness of how that risk profile is tracking and the controls we've got in place are operating. So again, I just want to reassure you that we have got a strong focus on maintaining that practice. In terms of the section 2 information is around events and reports and investigations that are currently in play. We are continuing to see an increase in reporting since the focus on that area earlier this year. My understanding is that the month of September so far has seen a continued uptick. So even though that may not necessarily be significant numbers coming through, they are better than we were experiencing previously in that space. The rest of the report really just continues to reiterate the statements I've made up until now. I'm happy to take questions.
It's just a general comment from me first that I've seen the quality of the report and also the response from staff to councillors' questions and queries and how that sort of flowed through in the next reporting session. So a compliment to the staff for taking on board the queries because risk management and health and safety are very important to council. So speaking order is Councillor Strange first.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you, Neville, for the fulsome report. Hey, just wondering, in the lift this morning, I noticed a sign up saying, do not use the lift outside of office hours. Just a question, was that prompted by an incident or?
No, my understanding is there's some faults in the lift have been reported recently over the past week and that there are repairs have occurred, but I'm not sure yet if it's, Chris, if you might be able to answer that more accurately.
So somebody take off their light so that Chris can comment further. Yeah, there you go.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So, look, I understand that the issue related to the lifts is actually the communication line, which is why it's after hours when staff might not be here to assist. And it's related, I think, to a spark issue as opposed to our building type of issue. And so I'm looking at Janine. I'm thinking we expected that to be fixed fairly expediently, but it's a network issue as opposed to out of our control. So we've taken the precaution of ensuring that people can't be stuck in the lift after hours. During normal hours, there'll be staff here to assist if needed.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Angela, you got your light back on? No other comment. Can I have a mover for that report, please? Councillor Hodge, Councillor Litchwick, you haven't seen anything yet, so yes, that's fine. We'll take you on board. Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Thank you for that. So we now move to page 249, which is the future of the Waikato plan, and it's item 8.2. And I welcome Tracy, and here is another person who's been helping so many of us actually advance our thinking and make some progress. And I think you do make us look good in a number of situations. Thank you for that, Tracy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Morning, councillors. So the purpose of this report is really just to place in front of council some thoughts and insights from the existing Waikato Plan Leadership Committee. It is not making any judgment as to the efficacy of the committee, rather it is just carrying some thoughts from the committee through to yourselves that, again, in previous conversations around the table this morning can then flow on to the next council for their consideration. A couple of issues have been identified in the report. Really, Waikato Plan itself and its many iterations has been going since 2013. Some of us have been there through the trials and tribulations, and as you would anticipate over that time, there are a number of other entities that have been created. So it is an opportune time in the next triennium for not only ourselves, but our partners to revisit the focus, the purpose, the scope of this. And given what we know our next council is likely to encounter with government reform, there's a really interesting conversation to have there. This is really to assist that conversation. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for that. This is an example to me of something that came from, let's say, a bit of a checkered start earlier on to something that's making significant strides in, again, this is a demonstration of collaboration. So to me, it was example sitting there quite later in the term that there was really great things going on between siloed agencies which normally don't communicate. So it was an example where totally disparate groups are actually talking to each other with a common purpose. So I got a lot of value out of seeing how this was coming together in the latter piece. So this is basically information for the incoming council, but there has been great work and demonstration of just how valuable such an entity is for facilitating collaboration. Any other comment before I, yes, Councillor White.
Yeah, I noticed at the bottom of page 250 where it had committee insights. It says there that in discussions the members have agreed that the Waikato Plan continues to have administrative oversight by WRC, which was also in alignment with recent conversations held by the Mayoral Forum. However, it has been noted by the committee that whilst there is a need for an accountability relationship, concerns have been expressed that some of the associated and necessary statutory requirements can feel overly bureaucratic. I just wondered whether you could comment a little bit more at the detail of that, and if that really is a significant issue, then what are they suggesting change to the structure or entity? Is it something that, yeah, so I'd just like comment on that.
Through you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councillor White, for raising that. It's been one of the key issues and one of the key tensions of the group. The group, or the Leadership Committee, has visibility with central government, and it has only really managed to attain that visibility through being a committee of this council. As being a committee of this council, you have to keep within standing orders and our legoima requirements for agendas, for conducting meetings in the way that you're all very used to, but many of our other representatives find it somewhat laborious and quasi-judicial. Of course it is, for that exact purpose, that it is a governance entity using public funds to run itself, so it needs that. So that is a real tension. What the existing committee has said is if there is a way to enable a more, I guess, organic approach to formal meetings, they would be open to that.
Yes, there's that tension. I reiterate those remarks. I'm not stepping away from it. I know the value of having a strong connection to this council, and that was reiterated by all. they don't always see that necessity that we understand when it comes to public funds. You have to follow certain process. So it's something for the incoming council to consider as to where it goes to from here. And it's very much up to the incoming council. But there's fabulous groundwork being put in place, ready for all that debate and consideration of those matters. So, Angela, you have the floor first, then followed by Jennifer, and then Russ.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was just going to say that the meetings that I attended with the Waikato plan were very well chaired by Margaret. Yeah, and I understand that she's now left, but yeah, she was an amazing advocate for the Waikato as well. So yeah, my thanks to her. But I was just wondering, Chair Barry and Jen, I know that you have been involved since then, and I'm just wondering if you could maybe share some insights as to sort of anything further on what you sense the feel might be moving forward.
I don't wish to speculate as to what an incoming council might do, because we don't know the face of that, we don't know the approach that it will take. All I would like to say is that, you know, the work that's been done, and you mentioned the chair, Margaret has really, with her huge background, you know, in terms of actually working groups together. I mean, she was bringing together government, you know, in the chamber. She brought that experience and that ability, and what's come out of this is very good, succinct information that the council can look at going forward, and it will. I think it's not full of bureaucracy in terms of how it's presented. It is presented in simple terms that really are clear. So I think all I'd say is I've got confidence that anybody looking at it with any sort of reasonable lens will see the value of it. So that's basically my comment. Jen.
Sure. Yeah, I've been a fan of the concept for a very long time. If to answer your question, paragraph 12 on 251 has a good summary of where the group got to. To give a bit of a sense, though, of late, there have been really good contributions by all the members involved that have been coming to these. It's a very warm, collegial atmosphere. There's some good critical thinking in the mix, and they all really want the well-being for the Waikato. There are, although, some voices not there, and that's always been an issue. And so that's one of the reasons, again, why there's a sense of wanting to refresh, co-design things new if required, if that's what the new council wants. It was set up 3 years ago, and it's run its course in that format. Things have changed. For example, Te Waka is much improved, in my opinion. The wellbeing project's been underway, and even our work has evolved quite a bit on the 4 wellbeings over that time. So to me, it's just, I'm happy to move, and it's something for the next council to consider.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Russ.
Thanks, Barry. No, it wasn't set up 3 years ago. It was, this council inherited it, and it was absolutely going nowhere. It was just a giant talkathon. The key was actually getting that chair. Yes. Previous Speaker of the House, as you said, Barry, outstanding recognition by both sides of the House, and she opened doors. And if it's going to be continued, it's important we have a person of that stature to be able to continue the work. Good Otherwise, comment. It's just another talkathon, of which I was very critical. Everyone said it would fail. It didn't. Yep. But that is no really any great support here, apart from our excellent staff and councillors that chose to go, which is great. But it was really, she is she's really a dame, Margaret Wilson, and she was just fabulous. So thanks very much, Barry. I think you summed it up well.
Thank you for those, and they'll be in the minutes. The the real effort that we had and the leadership we had, demonstrated leadership is an example. So thank you for all your comments, councillors. So I'll, Angela's second, and I'll move. Councillor Nicholl moves, sorry, I've been corrected. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. So we move on to item 8.3 on 252, which is the notification of the Waikato Regional Policy Statement. Change 1. Murphy, welcome, and thank you for all your work alongside your team and the pressures you've had. I know it's been a big job. So your floor is yours.
Right, tēnā koutou. So this report may look familiar to you, as we did bring a similar one to the Strategy and Policy Committee in July, asking you to endorse the draft Waikato Regional Policy Statement Change 1 in order for us to seek feedback from iwi authorities and our territorial authorities on the draft document. So the draft Change 1 has now been tweaked to reflect that feedback that we've received, and we're now asking you to adopt the proposed Change 1 to the Regional Policy Statement to enable notification of the change. You will notice that there is an addendum for this report. We just had a slight error with a map. So the content of the map was right, the format was just slightly out. So there's an addendum just to correct that. So a quick refresher, the RPS needs to be amended to incorporate the requirements of the National Policy Statement on Urban Development, which was released in August 2020 and updated in May of this year. The RPS also incorporates key components of the Future Proof strategy. That has been updated, so we're also updating those parts of the RPS to reflect that. If you adopt the document, then we are planning to notify from the 12th of October to the 16th of December to give a decent amount of time for submissions on the document. And then we'll be following the Schedule 1 process under the RMA, so there'll be opportunities for further submissions and then the hearing process in the new year.
Right. No further, any questions, comments? Happy with that. The fact that there's no questions is not any indication. It's actually an indication of the huge amount of effort that's gone in here. And I look back to significant things like this that would have created in the past very significant debate. So it's a reflection of the work of your team and the whole team in that respect. So a big thank you. And I have much pleasure in moving that. Do I have a seconder? Yes, Councillor Kneebone will second that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we now move on to item 8.4 on page 418. So Neville, you've got the hot seat again.
Move that mic. So the paper in front of you outlines the process that occurs post the end of this triennium, this election, and the final outcome of the election process and the first inaugural meeting of the new council, and the interim arrangements that take place during that period of time. The interregnum, I think, is the correct way of saying that word. It is a common practice, and it's something that councillors who have been here for a few trienniums will recall we regularly do. So it's something that we're all fairly familiar with. So ultimately, during that period of time, post the Friday the 7th of October until the 27th of October, which is the first formal meeting of the new incoming council, powers of the council are delegated to the chief executive, and there are constraints and limitations on those powers, as you'll see in the report. What can't be undertaken by the chief executive as the legislation prescribes. Most committees are discharged during that period, and that list of those committees and are there and under section 9 and what happens with those committees. One of the anomalies is the Lake Taupō Protection Project Joint Committee. Even though the councillors appointed will not necessarily be in place, the committee will continue subject to the resolution today, to continue undischarged. However, the WRC's seats will be vacated. So it does sound complicated, but it is a formality that we are required to maintain because of the unique nature of the relationship, the tripartite relationship with the Crown and Taupō District Council around this project. So look, that's the process. I've given you a very brief overview of the paper. The document itself, or the report itself, is fairly comprehensive in respect to the explanation of the context, the background, and what's impacted by the changes and the limitations on the powers to the Chief Executive. I'm happy to take any questions you may have. Before I ask Councillor White to speak, I'll just reflect. I had a discussion with the CEO, and you have an item coming up a little later that talks about the appointment of the independent chair and the independent director of risk and assurance, and they will continue. And I've invited the CEO to, if there's any major issues that arise, that those wise heads are available to the CEO. So he's going to certainly take that on board, and I think that will give you confidence that over the next period of time that we do have the best available approach to any issue that might arise. So thank you for that. Councillor White.
Yeah, I just had a practicality question. So in relation to, so for instance, Te Kōpua Kanapanapa, which we were told at the beginning that we may still need to be involved even after the triennium closed for a period of time. So I guess my question around that is just how do we do that from a practical perspective? Are we supposed to keep our phones for longer than we normally would if we were automatically resigning? Or, you know, are there special, yeah, just if you could just explain what happens in relation to that.
Marley's going to.
Yeah. So welcome, Marley, and thank you for your support for the council over the triennium.
Thank you, Chair Barry. Waihou-Piako councillors. For your question, it's top of mind for me, clearly. Finalising the piece with as the report is the term, and the members actually remain in place 60 days after. It's quite unique because it is set up by treaty. So the members will remain in place. However, you talked about the practicalities of actually coming back after a term, and the two members that are appointed by the council aren't staying.
No,
so that's yourself and
councillor
husband, and so we've taken that into consideration and factored it into the plan to finalise. Do that on the for those practical reasons.
So is it a problem if anything happens, because our meeting got cancelled the other day through lack of quorum? So how do we manage it if there was a problem and didn't get to have that last meeting? Can we extend it? Or can we still have the hearings after that point?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, the committee will endure, and so will membership.
Okay.
But for those practical reasons, we are very hopeful. We're really hopeful, and we're putting in place a plan that means that adopted. But you know, Plan B is we come back after the triennium, and we'll have to get both yourself and husband to come back and make some decisions.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good group.
Councillor Mahuta.
Just noting that we have the current deputy chair and myself as already confirmed, so there will be elected members for those 20 days of staff and management.
Great,
That's
thank
one.
you for that.
Two is I'd just like to acknowledge Ngāti Maniapoto's third reading today, so they're going to settlement, and just ahead of that, I don't know what's in it, so, but it's at least as big as the Waikato Tainu one, so there is a new injection in Ngāti Maniapoto of 170 million, as well as resource management access, as at today. So we have a new partner going forward, and I'd just like it recognized.
Kia ora, Councillor Mahuta, did you want us to identify
No,
now
just for that
what-
committee going forward. And just note flagging it for council. I'm not sure if many people knew their settlement was being concluded today, because we haven't made it in our minutes yet.
There being no other comment, Councillor McPherson's moved and I've seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. So we're steaming along here. We're now on to item 8.5, page 424. Okay, Janine, thank you. Welcome to your final meeting of this council, and you've already heard comments about the admiration we have for you and your team, and you've taken up a role which is a very challenging role during this triennium, and you've done it with purpose and ability, which has certainly impressed me and all councillors here. So a big thank you. So the floor is yours. Paper is yours.
Thank you, Chair. After those kind words, I think I'm probably here in a supporting role, and the Chief Executive might want to actually speak to this report directly.
There you go.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you through Mr. Chair that as you're aware that there was an unallocated operating surplus last year of just a fraction over $2 million. What we're requesting is, on the back of some of the comments made earlier in this meeting, given the continuation of a difficult labour market, is that that we're requesting that you set aside a similar amount of money to last year for some special purposes of retention and recruitment during this year, should it be needed. We have some critical roles in particular, and we've got some critical projects in particular, where we would be at considerable risk if we lost some people. So we'd like to be able to pull every string if we could to be able to retain those people. And of course, we're also looking at, what is the total experience for all employees in the organisation, and if we needed to move and do something in that space as well. That would, Janine, I think, so $150,000 would leave most of the operating surplus still there, and that would be for the next council to consider how they would like to apply that through during the year through the annual plan process. But you might like to comment further on that.
Thanks, Chris. No further comment other than noting those funds will be, the remaining surplus funds will be available for consideration by the new council as matters arise over the course of the year, or through the annual plan, which will obviously be a conversation that we need to land early in the next calendar year.
Thank you. Councillor Husband.
Happy to move, Chair.
Yep. Councillor Kneebone, second, and a comment by Councillor McPherson.
Can I just ask the Chief Executive, in terms of the retention element to this, how do you plan to use it, bearing in mind that as a one-off ex gratia retention initiative, it'll cost the council less on a long-term basis than institutionalising it in a salary? So do you have a preference? And the second question is, and I support it, Chair, in fact I think it's probably modest, how do you plan to give visibility to the incoming council on what you've done? Because it's not a matter of the wild, wild west. There does need to be some accountability. Two questions.
Thank you for that. You want to flick? Yeah, so you can answer.
Thank you, and excellent question, actually. So some of the discussion we've had is about people, particularly in key projects, to ensure we can retain them, maybe having some incentive payment if they were here at the completion of the project, as well as if people did signal that they were looking to move ahead, other offers, maybe using it in that way. It could apply to some staff where there would be an ongoing salary impact of it if we were to use it in a way that it was adjusting salary, but the intent would probably be more as a one-off payment, as a retention factor would be more likely. In terms of reporting, yes, absolutely. If it's not recorded in the paper, we could record how that was being used to the new council, if it was used.
Thank you. Yes, sure. Yep. There you go.
How will you, therefore, as the Chief Executive, stress test your thinking? You put yourself in a dangerous position of doing what you've just articulated if it's done on your own.
So I guess there's two things. One is if it were to happen in that interregnum period, we had a bit of discussion before about how I'd probably make any significant decisions anyway, but it's highly likely there'll be a new council in place when and if this was going to be applied.
Two councillors.
That's what I was saying in terms of the interregnum. But when the new council's in place, it's probably something that I'd be ensuring that those who are responsible for finance would be aware of. Chair.
Thank you for that response. Any other comments, questions? Thank you for that. So we have to put that Councillor Husband, Councillor Kneebone seconds. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. Now, thank you for that. We've come to near the end of the public session, but before I go out of public, I want to make a couple of comments. And that is that I want this council to recognise the absolute commitment and the capability of our CEO. This CEO, in my view, has been an appointment made by this council, and it's only with the capability of a good CEO that, and then he forms his team around him, that we've been able to advance our work. And it's a tribute to our CEO, Chris McClay, to be able to do that in spite of any sort of diversion that we as councillors throw at him. So we often will throw a diversion and he has line of sight on what he has to do. And I have absolute great admiration for that. So with that, I'm going to applaud the CEO. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that.
So with that, any comments? I welcome any comments by, I think it's appropriate. Councillor Husband.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Totally agree. Right person for the job, Chris. You're a spectacular CEO. And I hope Council continues to recognise that and spend some of that 150 because at the moment, you paid less than the Waihou-Piako CEO, so I'll be trying to poach you if I get the
Exactly right. So, Councillor White.
Yeah, I'd just like to endorse that too, and also to say that over the time that I was the Environmental Performance Committee Chair, when Chris was the Director in charge, I really appreciated the support and help that he gave through that committee as well. And would also like to say that the person who replaced him, Brent Sinclair, is doing a great job for you too, so thank you.
So with that, I think you can take it that every councillor is in strong support of your work and we leave the incoming council with the best possible team to take them forward with their mahi. So with that, I'd like to close this session, but before I do, I want to thank each and every one of the councillors around this table. They bring different perspectives. They have brought different perspectives to the table. There's been debate, and it's vigorous debate. Generally speaking, nobody has sat back and hidden behind a psychological wall. They've all said their view, and I've really enjoyed the fact that when you have a transition, you've allowed me to actually drive forward this council and get its work done, because in the end, that's what we had to do. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you. I do want to give recognition to our former chair, because the work he started this triennium did set a platform of committees that could do the work. So I have to acknowledge that our Councillor Remington has set us the roadmap to actually get on with it. So just acknowledgement to our former chair and to all of you. So thank you for that, and thank you to all staff. And we now close our public session. Is it a quick comment?
It is, Barry, it is. And I just would like to recognise you as the latest chair as being so fair and impartial. And I totally respect your ability, and thank you, Barry.
Thank you for that. So with that, I close the meeting. In terms of the public side, we're now going to get through to our PECs, public excluded. And after we do that, we'll go to lunch. And then I would like to just say to every councillor here, if you will join us after lunch, stay till after lunch, because I would like to say a few words, and our CEO would like to say a few words. So please stay on after lunch. So with that, we now close that public session. And we now take a few minutes. We now have I'll move, we go into public excluded, seconded by Councillor Remington. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. So we give a minute for Dave to transfer us over.